And it's another day on Flipside. Yes, Flipside, the other side of the news. Well, today we'll be focusing on the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking, World Day on Drug, or should I say World Drug Day. And usually this day is marked on the 26th of June every year, even though we're doing it on the 23rd today, or at least we're doing our special edition on it. But this day is to strengthen action, cooperation in achieving the goal of a world free of drug abuse. No, it's not a world free of drug, but drug abuse. Each year, individuals like yourself, those of you watching me now, the entire communities, various organizations all over the world, join the global observance. It's not a public holiday, to raise awareness on major problems that illicit drugs represent for our society. And this year, the team is focusing on saving lives, giving real facts to save life. And together, we can actually tackle the world drug problem. Now, it would interest you to know that around the world, over 269 million people use drugs in 2018. And that's like 30% much more than it was in 2009. While we have over 35 million people suffering from drug use disorder, and that's according to the World Drug Report, the last World Drug Report. And we know that there's a statistics I saw on one of a write-up by an NDLEA boss, I think a retired one. I was reading up on it today and was saying by 2025 there's a projected amount of billions of dollars, over 200 and something billions of dollars, that will be made from the drug market. And I will not give details of what that information was about, but maybe in the course of our discussions I would let you in on why it was giving the statistics and the monies being made off of drugs, or should I call them hard drugs. Well, my name is Daisy Leo Asikidi, your host on the show today. I have two guests in the house that we'll be talking about this day. They are frontline workers on this issue of drug in Edo State. And but before that one, before you meet them, we will show you a report that was on air last week Thursday on our news. You know, Flipside is the other side of the news of a bust of some criminals by the Nigerian Civil Defense Corps, and they claim that these people were involved in rape and some other heinous crimes, but the major problem was they were consuming drugs, and they were actually gotten from where they were buying the drugs. So we'll just play the report to refresh your mind on the fact that this whole drug thing can lead to even bigger problems than just the drugs itself. And after that, we'll get back to the studio. You will meet my guest, and we'll get talking.
Edo State Commandant of NSCDC, Mr. Uduyop Anyenka, said on assumption of office he carried out thorough investigation of criminal hideout, especially bushy areas in the neighborhood of the command. He said the investigation revealed that there were a series of armed robbery incidents and rape cases in the area owing to tall grasses surrounding the area.
I want to sound this note of warning to all the criminals elements that Edo State is not safe. For that kind of act, they should relocate, because we are going to work in synergy with other security agencies to put an end to the activities of criminals.
Suspects here were arrested along limit. We got an information that along that limit road, several robbery incidents has taken place, and also rape of innocent women going about their lawful duty. The commandant, in his own wisdom, with intelligence reports, sent officers to raid that particular black spot, and on getting there, we saw these 4 young men.
Some suspects narrate their involvement in the alleged crime.
I was caught in the bush, and when I got there, there were tables everywhere, so I sat down and I requested for roads.
As I go there, I see all these officers, they all tell me, say, man, lie down. There is Mosiga.
I was in the environment. I came to get malaria herbs.
That man see us that the same way we come, they sweep there. We call them on 1,000. If we don't sweep that place, that yesterday finish. You wait for them, say me come, we call them money.
Items recovered from the suspects are drugs of various kinds. At the time of this report, arrangements have been finalized to hand over the suspects to Nigerian Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, Edo State Command. Wellington Hakodeja reporting.
All right, so one of the items recovered from these people were obviously drugs, and it was put there on display. Well, you get to meet my guest right now. I have a very pretty lady in the house that has never been on the show before, But I'm always excited to have first timers because you know how we run. We'll bring them again and again, they'll become family members. So it's good to have her here. She's a doctor. Her name is Dr. Adebukola Origbede. She is a consultant psychiatrist from the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Selu. Good to have you with us today. And then I have a man, good-looking man, nice cap. When you even see his face, you just know where he's working. All right, I have Usman Suleiman. He's the Deputy Commander, NDLEA, Edo State Command. Good to have you with us on the show.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. So together we'll be discussing these old drug abuse then. And you know the way I am. I'm very passionate about women. I'm very particular about them. Even I look for ways, especially issues that at the end of the day relates to us somehow. We will look for ways to put us at the fore. It's not my fault. So today we'll still have some special questions as regards women in this old drug use wahala. But first things first, don't forget the International Day is actually going to be on Saturday, the 26th of June. But we're talking about the today, which is the 23rd of June. Flipside did not fall on a Saturday, so we'll just have to deal with what we have today. So I would start with you, Mr. Suleiman. What are the plans for this International Day? Does the NDLEA have an event planned for the day?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, viewers. Like you rightly pointed out, June 26 is set aside by the United Nations to create awareness all over the world with regards to issue of drug and drug abuse. Nigeria is not an exception, so we are also organizing SEM, and it's going to be a week-long sensitization event. Today we had a press conference by the chairman of Edo State Drug Control Committee. The day or the week is not celebrated by NDLEA alone, no. It is by Edo State Drug Control Committee, and the committee comprises of NDLEA and other stakeholders, including NAFDAC, the NMA, Nigeria Medical Association, the Pharmaceutical Council of Nigeria, the Armed Forces, NGOs, and all other stakeholders in the fight against drug abuse. The issue is that we've come to realize that the issue of drug or the fight against drug abuse hitherto now was only left for NDLEA, but it's not yielding results. And then it has come to our knowledge that everybody must partake, including you at home. And that is why the Edo State government, under the leadership of His Excellency Mr. Godwin Obaseki, constituted the committee. So the committee has kick-started since last week Sunday with church service. And today we had a press briefing. Tomorrow we will have health walk. And then tomorrow being Thursday, and on Friday we'll have Jumat services, where there will be sensitization at the mosques. And then on Saturday, of course, is the grand finale, while on Sunday we'll conclude by sensitization in some selected churches and Thanksgiving. So these are the activities lined up for the week.
Oh, wow. It's a full week. It's a serious one. Cool. All right. What about the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital? Do you have any special plans? Because at the end of the day, most of these people, when we're seeking help, we still bring them back to your desk. Or you're just going to work with them?
Actually, the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital is also part of the Edo State Drug Control Committee. So cool. All the activities are being done together. Oh, that's perfect. All right, now, most times when we talk about drug abuse, drug use, and all that, the first thing you find as regards Nigeria is NDLEA popping up on your search icon. So what's the role of the NDLEA in this drug abuse fight?
Yes, NDLEA came into existence through then Degree 48 of 1989, and it fully took off in 1990. It was a brainchild of United Nations, mandating all member nations to set up a specialized agency, having realized the enormity of the problem all over the world. And that was what brought about NDLA in 1990. And since then, it has been working and growing. But along the line, we discovered that we alone cannot do it. And we have also concentrated initially on the supply reduction aspect, arresting people, investigation, and then prosecuting them. Then even the drug users were criminalized. If you are arrested for smoking, you go to jail. Along the line, the result was not encouraging, and we are not getting the needed results, so we have to look again what is wrong. Findings now reveal that we were concentrating on one aspect without taking into consideration the demand reduction aspect of it. And that anytime there is demand, of course, there must be corresponding supply. So as long as people continue to demand for these products, the suppliers will be readily available. So it was now through National Drug Control Master Plan. It was a document compiled by conducting town halls, interviews, workshops with different stakeholders, and a document was brought up called National Drug Control Master Plan. The document now emphasizes on the need to balance the supply and the demand aspect of it. And that is why more emphasis now is being geared towards sensitization in order to enlighten people on the consequences of this drug. And then even those that have not ventured into it, to stay put. Don't tamper with this drug, because one thing with drug is that once you touch it, you remain hooked. So, and that is the reason why even through the Industrial Drug Control Committee, we visit schools up to primary school level, secondary school level, and tertiary institution to educate the students on the consequences of these drugs.
Interesting. Okay, you said something about once you start using it, you could get hooked. And that's my first question to you. There are lots of people who I see maybe taking alcohol. We've had discussions on drug use before on the show, and one of those shows we learned that alcohol is a drug. And I said, I've seen people who take alcohol, they don't get high, they don't get drunk, let me use the right word, they don't get drunk, they still do things normal, and then we just see people even when they just perceive one small glass, they lose it all. And I think that's the same thing with some drugs. There was a guy I used to know, he smoked weed, he smoked cigarettes, normal, everybody knew in the area. Well, the first day he took Igbo, the guy went insane. He was losing his clothes, and it took a very long time to get him back to normal. And even at that, there's this extreme quietness about him. And there are people who were taking that Igbo before him who actually introduced them to it, and they don't react that way. So why is it that some people get addicted to the drugs, some don't, some overreact to the drugs, and some don't?
Wow, thank you for this question. Actually, there are so many reasons why a person will become addicted to a drug and the next person would not become addicted. The major thing is that addiction has a genetic basis. There's a genetic basis for addiction. Some people are more predisposed to becoming addicted than others because genetically it is already in their system. Then the other factors we need to consider in terms of those who get addicted and those who do not are the psychosocial factors surrounding these people. Some people are prone to becoming addicted because they have so many problems surrounding them which push them into drug use and sustain that drug use. People who are from dysfunctional homes, homes that are not settled, that are not happy, are very prone to substance use. Also, people who have personality issues, you know, our personalities are different. Some people can be very introverted, some are very extroverted, they are pleasure seekers, they are risk takers. Those people who enjoy taking risks tend to go towards drug use because they want to know how it feels. They want to know what feeling is there. When people are using drugs, they want to experience it for themselves. That how do these things actually feel? So people with those kind of personality may get involved in drug use and get stuck there. Also, the very introverted people who don't make friends easily, who find it difficult to mix with people, they tend to use drugs so that they can relax and lose those inhibitions and flow more with people and get more integrated into the society. Because these drugs are doing so much for them, they want to continue using it, they don't want to stop. And the issue is that the more you use, the more the likelihood that you will become addicted. So those are some of the reasons why some people are likely to become addicted to a drug and some just use for social reasons and they're all right.
Wow, interesting.
There is, in your question, you made a very vital point, and that is from cigarettes to cannabis. There are cigarettes, alcohol, like you mentioned, are socially acceptable drugs. They are not prohibited for adults anyway. But one of the, during our sensitization, more especially to schools and teenagers, is cigarettes, alcohol, cola nut, and what have you. These are socially acceptable drugs, but they are gateway drugs. Because let's take, for instance, a student in school. He only takes cigarettes. But he cannot take that cigarette within the class premises. The teachers will see him, so he has to move to the bush. Same thing with somebody who takes cannabis. They will meet. And in that process, he can be lured into, let me have a taste of it. Let me experiment this cannabis and whatever. And that is why we always emphasize on total abstinence of any type of drug, irrespective of whether it is socially acceptable or not. Because from cigarettes, you can develop to cannabis because you will meet. There is a meeting point.
Interesting. I was actually going to ask a question related to that, so I guess that answers the question.
You know, the other thing concerning what he said is that those who are already predisposed to using one drug because of issues that they may have, like I earlier said, those who are already on the track of using drugs, genetically, they are already prone to drug use. People are using drugs in the family. They see these things around all the time, and they start to use drugs. The same thing that made them start to use whatever it is, maybe alcohol or cigarettes, is the same reason why they will go on to use harder drugs. Because the other thing we need to consider is that as time goes on, when you start using a drug, after some time, the effect is not as good as it was the first time. So you want the high to continue. You want to experience more pleasure. So when maybe cigarettes now, you are not feeling it the way you used to feel it, then you will want to use something more to see whether that pleasure will come back. So in the process, somebody just has to suggest to you that try this one. You will enjoy it. This one is even better than that one, and you are interested. On the other side, the dealers who sell things like marijuana, by the time they sell to you once or twice and they notice that you're a good customer and you are buying all the time, they are the same people that will bring cocaine or heroin and tell you that this one is even better. Just try it. So the issue of gateway drugs has to be balanced with the fact that the same factors that will push you into taking one are the same factors that will push you into taking the others.
Okay, what the question about marijuana, cannabis, that's Igbo,
yes,
that we call Igbo. It's a leaf. They're herbal. Should I say herbal now? They're plants.
Yes.
That's more like it. They're plants. And so many people, many of the countries that have legalized these drugs, or at least decriminalized them, harp on the fact that these are plants, and so they are safer than the regular pots you see out there, the shisha that's some will still claim. Many ladies take shisha now. They tell you it's a combination of water. It's more water and something than, so it's really, really mild. It's very diluted. It's water. I don't know. I've never smoked it. I don't know. I just see them when you go out at night. Maybe you go buy your barbecue fish. There's someone in the corner playing music and dancing, and everybody's just feeling real good with themselves. So is it really true that the plant-based drugs are safer than the more chemical-based ones?
Thank you for this question. Actually, the truth is that no drug is safe. This shisha that you just spoke about is tobacco. It's the same tobacco, yes. It's just that
you call itaba that old women put in their teeth?
It's still tobacco.
Oh.
It's still the same thing in the cigarette.
Okay.
Yes. The only difference now is that with shisha, they add some flavors to it, which makes it more palatable. And it's even more dangerous because there are so many particles in it that when you use it, it settles in the lungs, which is actually very dangerous. It's still the same tobacco. Now, looking at marijuana, marijuana is a plant, agreed, but it has several components. If you've noticed, some countries will tell you marijuana is legalized for medical use. Some will tell you it's legalized for recreational use. Now, the recreational component of marijuana is what we call tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, while the medical aspect of it is cannabidiol and some others. Now, for the medical marijuana now, they are specifically bred for medical purposes. So they focus on the therapeutic effect, not the recreational effect. So for those ones, the CBD content, like I said, the CBD is the therapeutic aspect of it. That CBD is much higher than the THC, which is the problem aspect of it. So if you are using medical marijuana now, definitely a medical professional must recommend you for it. There must be a concrete reason why you're taking it. It's not allowed from ages less than 18, except in special cases. And then the other thing with medical marijuana is that there are a lot of regulations. They monitor it. The purity is regulated. The quantity you can get is also regulated. So that is why some people will tell you that it is safer than just taking other chemicals or other drugs or the recreational aspect of marijuana. But the truth is that no drug is safe. That's just the truth.
Interesting. Okay, Nigeria is looking for ways to make more money. We're owing a lot and we're still borrowing more. Maybe before the next 3 years, we'll just sell the country. That's just a joke. But we're owing a lot of money and oil seems not to be doing it anymore. This present administration has talked about agriculture, but agriculture was so sweet when we started the campaign for it until we started having headers clashes with farmers. People are even afraid to go to the farms. So, considering the monies involved in drugs, don't you think it's reason enough for Nigeria to begin to consider legalizing it? Because we're having countries like South Africa, it's an African country, and they've legalized some drugs there. Canada, Portugal, Mexico, Uruguay, several countries, I think Croatia, several countries around the world legalized it because of the money involved. As far as drugs are not legal, they will not be paying tax. But if you legalize it, a lot of money could be accrued to the government. A lot of jobs could be created. And I read somewhere that in the United States, the drug companies have created over 64,000 jobs for people. So it's in one way solving unemployment, it's in another way dealing with the commercial aspects of our society. So why are we still not thinking about it? And it could also, I don't know, won't it also help caution the use of it, regulate the price of it, so it's not really so easy. You just go to the back of one house, they just wrapper for me. You know, it gets a little bit pricey, and so you don't just begin to pack all of them in the house like many people do now. So why are we not still thinking about legalizing cannabis?
Thank you. When we talk about legalization, it does not take away control. It's only that for those that are producing it, you must be licensed. And then anybody you are selling it to will also be a registered user, where it is also expected of you to keep records. It's just like in our pharmaceutical stores. They have what we call poison box. And they have records where if you bring the prescription from a recognized hospital, they sell it to you, keep the records. So it's controlled. It's not that it is free, that anybody can just walk into any store where they're selling cannabis in those countries and then buy them. No. It's controlled. Then the issue of revenue accruing from the production of cannabis. Yes, issue of drug is the third highest most lucrative business in the world. The first lucrative business is oil and gas, second is arms, and then the third is drug. There is money in drug, and that is why a lot of people would like to venture into it. And that is why they are also dangerous. Drug dealers have money. The profit margin is very, very high.
Yeah.
And that is why they can do anything to protect their business. A lot of our colleagues have died in the course of the fight, and they can do anything. Yes, there is money. We can tax them. We can give them license and whatever to get revenue or generate revenue for the government. But what is the multiplier effect of making it available to virtually everybody? When you look at what the government will generate from licensing to what the government is going to spend in terms of the multiplier effect of what it will generate, you and I know that the insecurity we are facing in this country today is being fueled by drugs. Even the insurgency in the northeast, the Boko Haram, we've arrested tons upon tons of tramadol. The major substance of drugs by Boko Haram is tramadol. That is confirmed. And there is nobody that can have the wherewithal to take another person's life without the influence of drugs. Because drugs, one of the things that it does is it alters issue of fear and pain. It dreadens the heart. You don't fear, and then you feel like you are a superhuman being. And that is why they can do anything. Somebody can arrest, can kidnap a victim, collect the ransom, and at the same time kill the victim. Somebody can enter somebody's house, rob them, rape them, and kill them. It is only somebody whose brain has been altered that can do that, and that is only possible under the influence of drug. So when you look at even currently what is going on in the country, if you look at the amount of money federal government is spending in training and retraining of law enforcement agencies that will fight this menace, the amount of money even Edo State is spending funding the activities of Edo State Drug Control Committee is enormous. So when you look at the amount of money that government is going to spend in order to curtail this, creation of rehabilitation centers and what have you.
I think I'll cut you there. We'll go on a break quickly. When we come back, you continue from where you stopped. All right, the quiz and debate competition is really, really close, and I encourage parents out there to get the forms for their kids. It's just 10,000 naira, but they stand a chance of winning a plot of land. You saw what happened last year. Is we don't do things that are not clear here. We give them the documents of the land right on air in the presence of the world. We streamed that program live, and so these kids became landowners real young. And you should encourage your kids, both primary and secondary school, because there are two categories to participate in the quiz and debate competition. Now back to us. We're talking about drug abuse and illicit trafficking, and we were at the point where we're talking about the we were on you, Mr. Suleiman, before the break, the very long break. Okay, so on the conclusion on what you were on, or should we just move on?
Yes, I just want to mention that the issue of legalization in this country for now is not going to be possible because we don't even have the manpower. Most of the law enforcement agencies are understaffed. We don't have the facilities to monitor the plantations. So monitoring generally is going to be difficult. And that is why we are not yet there to even start thinking of legalization. And then when you compare the pros and cons, you will find out that they are not even at par. So the concept of legalizing cannabis production in Nigeria now, we are not ripe for it.
Okay, let's focus a little bit on women. Maybe notice we're not talking about much on what causes it, how can you spot someone, because we've dealt with all of those before. We've dealt about it from a psychiatrist's perspective, we've dealt about it from a lawyer's perspective. So today's one is more like a random thing. All right, so let's talk about women. The women who are pregnant, you know, during pregnancy, you hear women say, they say don't drink. We still see lots of women drinking. I remember I learned a skill when I was in university, and my madam, she was pregnant at that time. You know, she comes to the store, the day she's coming, and you know this woman we saw 50 clothes today. She comes with a red lipstick and a bottle of Star, you know, and she drinks it, and the baby came out looking all fine and all that stuff. So, but how is it, what's the effect of alcohol or drug consumption during pregnancy and maybe even after the birth of the child?
You know that for everything the mother takes, because of the placenta, it must get to the baby. That's one. So any drug that a mother uses during pregnancy must definitely affect the baby. Now, the effect on the baby depends on the amount of drugs, the type of drugs, and the period within which the mother was using them. The first trimester is particularly sensitive. I'm talking about the first 3 months of pregnancy, extremely sensitive. Any drugs taken at that period will definitely have a very detrimental effect on that baby. Now, that is not to say that when they take drugs at other stages of pregnancy, it does not affect the child. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the risk is extremely high during that first trimester. Now, these children, whether it's alcohol or cigarettes or cannabis, these children come out, some of them have physical malformations, and when you see them, they don't look normal. Some will have defects in their thinking, their ability to concentrate, in their intelligence, and these are issues that will show up later in life. Most probably when the mother would even have forgotten that she even took anything during pregnancy. Remember you said something, you said that baby came out looking normal. The look is one thing. The development of the brain is another thing. And that will not reflect until later in life. Now, for those mothers who use drugs like cocaine and heroin, because they're already, the baby has been used to that drug from the uterus. By the time the baby is born, the drug is no longer there, and the baby reacts. The baby is actually addicted, so to speak. Wow. And the baby has those withdrawal symptoms that people who are addicted to drugs have. So those babies have to be managed specially. They take them to the neonatal ICU. There's a lot of treatment that they have to do for them before they can scale through that neonatal period and wean them off the drugs before they can be normal. So, drug use in pregnancy, while it may not reflect immediately, while you may see the baby and say, this baby is fine, there's no problem, there are issues that will surface later that you may not have noticed at that time. Meanwhile, there are some that will have very major difficulties. We see those children, they look, even looking at them, you know that they are not normal. And they cannot go to school, some cannot walk, some cannot do normal. They are definitely different from their peers of the same age. So I wish to reiterate again that there are no safe levels of drug use during pregnancy. There's no drug you can use in pregnancy and say there's no problem. And there's no amount of drug you can use in pregnancy and say, I just took small, there's no problem. Drug use in pregnancy is bad.
Wow. What about a very mild drug like caffeine?
With caffeine, you know the withdrawal symptoms of caffeine. They get jittery, they get irritable, they're upset, any little thing, they're angry. Those babies come out jittery, irritable, uncomfortable. They're always crying. Yes, they're always, with every drug, there are issues.
At least people like us that used to have an addiction with caffeine, we've gone past it. Glory to God. Okay, and I'll still ask this one. Is overcoming addiction different for women as compared to men, or it's all the same thing?
You know, women have peculiar problems. In our society, the fact that you're a woman and you're using drugs, you are stigmatized, badly stigmatized. And that already has an effect on your recovery, because you even want to hide it. The prospect of even seeking treatment for you is an insurmountable thing, because you don't even want anybody to know that you are doing this thing. So you hide it. And for women, the effects of drug use tend to show much faster than men. Maybe because our body masses are different and we tend to store fat more. So we tend to retain a lot of those drugs in our system. So the effects will show, but the woman will try to hide it. Now, by the time she now decides, okay, I want to come out for treatment, everybody is against her. The whole family comes out and says, you are doing this thing. Everybody is angry. The husband is angry. Everybody is upset. They're furious. So to even pay for your treatment is another problem on its own. Now, if you're able to get funding for treatment, where do you put your children? Who will take care of them? How do they go to school? How do they do the normal things while you are in treatment for 3 months? Remember, our program is for 3 months. Those 3 months, these women are agonizing over their children. They are wondering who is feeding them. Are they eating well? Are they okay? When they even tell them, okay, bring the children, let the mothers see them. They see the children and they're miserable. They're crying. They're like, these children are lean, they're not doing well. Even for those that are doing well, they're telling you, these children have forgotten me, they can't even remember me. So they're miserable all through treatment. So their treatment, so the ability to even focus on treatment is a problem for them, because there are so many concerns that they're thinking about. Now they're out of treatment, they're back at home. Everybody is aware that she was on treatment for 3 months. She was in Uselu. The husband is angry. All the in-laws are upset. So any little thing she does, she has started using that thing again. So to even give her the opportunity to regain herself and continue that journey, I wish to say here that recovery is a lifetime thing. It's not that once you come for treatment, you are free. You keep having to monitor yourself. You keep having to come for follow-up. You keep having to seek counseling periodically. It's a lifetime thing. So now this woman is out of the hospital. She's back at home. The people at home have refused to let her forget that they took her to Uselu for treatment. Any little thing is a problem. If you give her money and she doesn't bring the change, she has used the change to buy drugs. Everybody is talking about it. So she's not settled. And those things in itself are enough to push her back into drug use. So for treatment and recovery, I'm talking as a woman, I really think it's easier on the men than for women.
With all of these peculiarities, don't you think there should be special facilities for the treatment and of women instead of this general? Apart from Uselu, I don't think there's any other very big place for recovering in Edo. So don't you think we should be thinking in the lines of maybe the committee should even suggest this, build a facility just for women?
Yes, I agree with you. Because in developed countries, they have facilities for women where they can even bring their children while they are on treatment. The children will be taken to school and brought back. The babies are kept. The woman is given a room big enough for her and the baby. So she has the opportunity of staying with the baby. When she has to go for her treatment, there's a child care facility that can take care of the baby while she's away. So that helps. And even within the treatment facilities, even the other people in treatment, the males in treatment with the women, tend to mock the women. Like, what are you doing here? How many women can you see in this place? So even the woman is not comfortable being there. So a lot of women will tell you, I was in a program for drop-in centers a few months ago. Those drop-in centers are those places where they do not admit you, but you can come for a checkup, you can come for counseling. That's for drug users. You can come for daily interactions with counselors. So the women in that area said they would prefer to have a particular day for their own treatment. Why that day men will not come. It will just be the women. So they will attend to them and they will go away, because the harassment they get from the males was too much for them. They couldn't cope with it. So because of that, those women tend to run away from those centers. But when they created a day separately for them, where they could come and be attended to on their own, they did much better. So I agree with you that having facilities dedicated to women may just be better.
And today that issue even came up during the press briefing.
Good.
It's something that the Edo State Drug Control Committee has put forward to His Excellency, the Governor of Edo State, to assist. Because, like you rightly pointed out, apart from the psychiatric hospital, we don't have an independent rehab centers. And it's something that we should look into because of the problem at hand. Once somebody is a victim of drug abuse, there is no place that he can go to, if more especially he doesn't have the means of affording to be in Uselu. Because these things also require some commitment. And for people, because there was a time when a bread seller came to us that her child, a daughter, is addicted to cocaine. And she wanted, yes.
How did she get money to buy cocaine?
She wanted assistance.
Wow.
But some of including the private rehab centers, are a bit expensive.
Pricey.
She is a bread seller, she cannot afford it. So if you have a government on rehab centers, they can assist such a person.
Okay. Now, when there are usual drug busts, of course, you work with intelligence reports and all that stuff. What next after you get these dealers and users? What happens to them? They go to...
Okay, when we raid a joint, for instance, our primary focus is on the dealer.
Okay.
We want the person who is selling to pick him off, along with his exhibits, the substances of abuse that he's dealing with. So we then bring him to the office, we conduct our investigation, and then arraign him in court for prosecution purposes. And then he's sent to jail. That does not mean that others that are smokers will let them go. We also arrest them. But what we do with them is that we don't look at them as criminal as the dealer. We look at them as victims.
Wow.
Now, what do? We cancel them. In such situation, we invite the parents. And surprisingly, you see that most parents don't even know that their kids are using it. So we invite the parents, and then we let them know what transpired. This is where we arrested your child, and this is it. There is we conduct also preliminary tests to ascertain the substance of abuse. It will give you the result within 2 minutes. So when the substance of abuse is ascertained, the child now is cancelled. We have what we call outpatient. The child will be at home. He will be given certain days to be reported. And then the counseling is also carried out along the family members, because the family also have responsibilities in ensuring that this child goes out of the drug abuse substance. There was a time when we had such an arrest. The father came. He said his child doesn't take anything, that he's always at home. Immediately he closed from school, he's back, and that he doesn't go out. So we called the child. When he now entered into my office, I asked him, "For how long have you been taking these drugs?" He just opened his mouth and said, 4 years. The father was surprised. 4 years? And I asked him, "How do you take these drugs?" He said, for cannabis, he normally smokes it when he goes to school or whatever. But tramadol, codeine, or whatever, he mixes it in Lacasera or Coca-Cola bottles, and then he will be sipping it. That was when the father now screamed. He now said, does that mean that this boy is taking this drug right in my presence? Because he said he has been advising him that too much of sugar is bad because he's always with Coca-Cola. You know, while in the parlor watching telly, the son is there with Coke for 2 hours sipping. So the father doesn't know that. And that is why, if you look at the theme of this year, share facts about drugs in order to save life. For you to share facts, you must acquire the facts. So we are encouraging parents. That is why, under the umbrella of the Edo State Drug Control Committee, we embark on massive sensitization exercise to educate the parents on their responsibilities in the fight against drug abuse. Because you have to get the knowledge. You have to know the signs and symptoms for you to look out for it from your kids. So we advise that parents should seek for knowledge.
Okay, so last words on the show.
Well, I wish to say that drug abuse is a very huge problem in Nigeria. It's a threat to national security, it's a threat to economic development, it's a threat to peace, it's a threat to everything we stand for as a nation. So all hands must be on deck to ensure that this problem is stopped.
All right. I want to say thank you to you, Doctor, and our Deputy Commander for taking our time to be on the show today. It's a busy week for them. You already know that, but they still made our time because while we know the fact, we also need to share it, and they come to share some of the knowledge they have. One thing I'm just going to leave you out with is, if you're still thinking you're not addicted and you're consuming, one of the ways to know that you're addicted already is you believe you can stop, but you just don't want to stop. Addiction is knocking if it has not already caught up with you. And most times when you now decide, I'm going to stop, you find out you cannot stop. So you deceive yourself at first with, I just don't want to. Then when you now say, okay, it's time for me to, you realize it's very difficult to get away from these drugs. Even something as little as caffeine could take you up to 5 years. Because when you start feeling the withdrawal headache, you quickly drink it. And when you drink it, it calms your nerves. And, talk less of other drugs. We all need to do our best to ensure that we're safe. We need to share facts. We need to save lives. Issue of drug abuse is something that will always keep coming up, and there are different angles to it. But anyway, for those who just tuned in, you've missed out on the whole show. You can watch the repeat broadcast on TSTV, GoTV, and StarTimes. Or better still, just wait by evening, you go on YouTube and watch the old video all over again. Have a nice day. We'll be back again.